Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. It's Tuesday night, 9:51 p.m. Eastern Standard, as we start recording. I am, of course, your host, as always, Chad. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how the hell are you?
Yeah, man. Always glad to be back. Just trying to beat the heat.
Yeah, it was 97 today up here in Ohio. Uh, I am fortunate enough to have a little pool. Nothing fancy, it was a couple $100, but it really helps you beat the heat. So I'm grateful. Costco pools for the win. Yeah, it's got to be crazy hot down by you, man. Like, you're out of the South,
Yeah, man.
the muggy
Yeah,
South.
man. It's hotter than camel butt out here, bro. Like
Oh
it's
no.
the lowest has been getting at 2, 3 in the mornings in the 80s. So yeah, it's one of the things. Like I'm usually have a lot of cats in the neighborhood for no fine reason. I didn't see none of them out today as I walked to CVS.
That's how you know it's hot when even the cats are like, you know what? I'm usually pretty lazy, but today I'm gonna be extra lazy. Speaking of lazy, TNA's booking for Slammiversary can't be described as such. While we're pretty pessimistic on the future of the company, and we'll talk more about Mike Santana's future, which has been all but revealed. I will say pretty emphatically that I thought Slammiversary was a well booked show. I would not sit here and tell you that it's one of the best Slammiversaries of all time. Um, the talent just is not here. If you're a sports fan, especially as a Clevelander, I know this all too well, it feels like they're rebuilding. I don't know if I trust the people making decisions to rebuild this, and that's the concern. But it's like you watched a basketball game or a football game with, say, the Cleveland Browns because they're fucking dog shit. And you're like, wow, there's no talent on this team, but like they still only lost 19-16. So like, hey, that's a moral win. And it feels that's what Slammiversary was. It feels like a moral win. It feels like this was the best they could do with the roster that they had. And coming off of some pretty abhorrent booking for more than a year, maybe even 2 years. It felt nice to just see competency, not even talent necessarily, but competency, and that gave me a little bit of hope. And then we got the news on a new title, so things are starting off because I feel like Slammiversary is the technical new year of the company. I feel like we're kicking off the TNA new year here in a big way. So that's at least a good start. Uh, we get to, we had some, some pre-show stuff, but our first real match was the triple threat. It was Indy Hartwell, Mara Sade, and Alana Black. I can't begin to tell you just how little I care about most of these women. No more so than Alana Black and Indy Hartwell. She won, and I have a feeling she's going to win the TV title. But again, we'll get to that here in a second. Solid match. Marcus, any thoughts on the women's triple threat match if you saw? Because I know it was on the pre-show.
This was who it was, Mar
It was Mara, Alana, and Indy.
and Indy won.
Alana won. I'm
Yeah,
guessing. I'm guessing this one it wasn't one that you were able to catch.
I wasn't able to catch this one, but yeah, I'm kind of riding with Maul J right now. I like the progression she's been having. I can't connect to Indy Hall well. Nothing personal against the young lady. Sure, she's out there, giving 100%, but I don't think either one of us connect with her like that.
No.
You made your thoughts and opinions on her known. Obviously, as we always say, it's nothing personal. It's just what we see and how we feel. Um, but yeah, I can't, with the young lady that won, I don't really deal with her either. This is and when they kind of somebody put up a graphic of all of the knockouts. This may very well be the weakest the knockouts have ever been that you've been calling out for 2 months now. Um, and God bless them. It's a bit ironic that the probably the most diminished knockout roster they've ever had is when they're now introducing um, a new title as they've lost however many. We'll
Hmm.
get more off into, but yeah, it's I would have preferred if Mara won that, but maybe she'll see more wins in the upcoming tourney.
Well, and let's talk about that here in a second. We were promised a new signing, and we'll get to that. And we were promised a Hall of Famer would return. We got that. If we were to list all the Hall of Famers we wish we would have saw, I think this one would have been at the bottom. We love Tracy Brooks, but not exactly the name we were hoping to see with the likes of Sting and Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett. But like, it's cool to see her. She shows up and announces a brand new title. It's the TNA Knockouts Television Championship. And they have announced a 16-woman tournament to crown the new champion. I got to imagine that this might take us all the way into lockdown because you got to think there's 8 opening matches. Then there's what, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Wait, no, hang on. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Yeah, one, two, three, four, five, six. So we got like 14 matches we got to do. Say 2 a week, that's 7 weeks. That takes us to about lockdown, give or take. I think that makes sense, and I think crowning the champion at lockdown makes a lot of sense. Though they did say that the title would be exclusively defended on television. So maybe it doesn't get to knockdown. Maybe it gets crowned before knockdown or after knockdown. I don't know. Not knockdown. Jesus Christ, lockdown. But here's the matches and the roster. We have a few new names. We have a few NXT names, but mostly we have TNA names. First one up is Indy Hartwell. She will be taking on a woman by the name of Vicky Venuto. I've looked her up. She's a solid hand. I don't know if she's going to be sticking around long term, but the team needs talent, so maybe she can provide it. Harley Hudson, our pink haired British girl, will be taking on Thea Hale from NXT. Alanya Black will be taking on Wendy Chu of NXT and Evolve. M by Elegance will take on Rosemary. On the other side of the bracket, we have Heather by Elegance taking on Allie. We have Mara Sade taking on Tasha Steeles. Jody Threat will be taking on Gabby Forza, who I believe has connections to Brian Myers' Creative Pro Wrestling group, as well as Bear Bronson. And then we have Jada Stone taking on Alicia Edwards on the other side of the bracket. Not the greatest, but here's some things to be hopeful for. Jada Stone's winning her opening match. Gabby Forza and Jody Threat are both young and newish to the wrestling world. Jody Threat could use a big push, so we'll see what happens there. The NXT talent, Thea Hale and Winnie Chu, are not going to win a match. They're both set to essentially take L's. I would be flabbergasted if Harley Hudson took a loss to Thea Hale. We get 2 new names in Vicky Venuto and Gabby Forza, though I think both have wrestled once or twice before for TNA. And we have M by Elegance and Rosemary, as well as Heather by Elegance and Allie, continuing on their feud, which is also bringing guys to the Knockouts Tag Team titles. So, like, this division, this tournament is looking better than I feared it would look originally. Again, I'm not super excited about some of the names, like Wendy Chu. Like, she's 35 and still hasn't found, she's still in what was it, Evolved?
Yeah, she didn't really show the character um had a weird like dreamer character, whatever, that had a pillow or whatever. It just wasn't working out in NXT. It ended up down the evolve, became a more serious uh character now. But she was Evolve champion, and now I think Nikita is the champion, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, should we with the history of this whole thing, should we be counting out the NXT talent uh so fast with the
So
bonehead decision that's been made?
here's what I'll tell you. No one should be expecting or not expecting anything at this point. Road Dogg's going to be joining the creative team if he hasn't already. Delirious is going to be, still part of it. I don't know who else is going to have a hand in this. we don't know what to expect. And we also don't know, and this is like a big point of contention that people are just ignoring. We don't know if Tommy was told to put over NXT talent or not. You know, everyone's like, well, Tommy used the NXT talent, and they may have been contractually obligated to do so. Everyone was mad about the what's his name, Javion Evans. Is that who Leon Slater faced at Bound for Glory? Javion Evans, I think it was. So remember that Bound for Glory X Division match? It was like Slater and Evans. It ended in a no contest or what have you. I think a lot of people were upset about that, but also I don't think TNA had the ability to just have Leon win. I think there are limitations to what they can do with the NXT talent, and I don't think people are really aware of how much that actually affects the product. They just assume Dreamer's a bad booker, but it may be more or less because that Dreamer has to do some things. There might have been a deal in place where they had to put an NXT talent over with the TNA World Title. Now, all the time, no. We had like three women from NXT win the Knockouts title. Like that's obsessive. But at least once, yeah, I could see that. So I'm looking at the names now, Thea Hale and Wendy Chu, and I got to think to myself, if this is a situation where they have to put over the women, I don't think they would send Wendy Chu, number one. She's going to be 35 in January. She hasn't done anything since joining the WWE. I'm surprised she's still under contract. As for Thea Hale, she's been there for all of like 30 seconds. I think she won one of those stupid NXT secondary belts or what have you. But I don't think she's here to win. If it was somebody of a higher pedigree, even someone like Nikita Lyons, I think we would have to worry about that. I really do. I don't think with the two names they sent being Thea Hale and Wendy Chu that we have to worry about that. So I think we're okay, but until we know how Road Dogg and Delirious work together and what their first card looks like, I can't say for certainty that this is going to be a good thing or a bad thing with the NXT talent. I just know that they are involved, and that's about it. We'll see if something good comes from it. Are you excited for the
Yeah,
KO TV title tournament?
I dig it. I think it's like I said, this is not the strongest pass knockouts they have, but I do think they have potential to use that as a way to show and prove, and defy expectations, and what it could be versus what it looks like. So I'm looking forward to it. Didn't necessarily see this come out, although I think we kind of talked about and teased it. Like I said, it's a very interesting time for them to do this with everything that's been going on. But it's here now. It made like a fire on the division. Like I think the Tracy Brooks thing almost, like you said, not necessarily who we was expecting, but do you think they saved some coin with all of that being an easy lateral, with her being not only a TNA Knockouts Hall of Famer, but also the wife of somebody who was on the show?
I think they did the best they could, and I also think if we're thinking overhauls, I have to
Yeah,
imagine that maybe they're looking at Tracy to come in a bigger role, especially in the Knockouts division, and maybe replace someone like
yeah,
Candice Michelle, who was a Tommy Dreamer hire for all that we understand now. She may not have been. Santino Morella
yeah. Okay.
wasn't a Dreamer hire. So
I
like,
was going to ask about Candy. Yeah,
well, and I think with Dreamer's departure, a lot is up in the air. People don't realize how close Candice and Tommy actually are.
yeah,
Tommy hosted her retirement match. So very likely, we could be seeing some more changes down the road here. And again, the issue last week wasn't about them making changes. It was the wording they used to describe that they were reducing their workforce. That's the concern. It's not that they're making changes. Changes happen. It's that they're, you know, reducing and stacking responsibilities on the same people, all while getting rid of people who are doing 16 things already for you at the same time. So like that's the concern. Does that mean that we're not going to get some impressive things down the road? Of course it doesn't. We might. Things might get better. Things might be good for us. I don't know. But there are concerns.
Yeah,
And admitting that isn't a
yeah.
bad thing.
No, I mean with everything that they've done, they kind of force you, but you have to be objective
Hmm.
because you can't, you can't, gas them up too much. Even though some people try it. Like I think, and it's funny because at this point, watching you like go back and forth, people on Twitter, I can almost hear you. You doing it?
Hmm.
Your voice in particular. With who's the guy that like kind of almost, I hate to use this term, but it's kind of true that like people that shield like TNA, like the AO production dude or whatever.
Oh
I think
yeah,
you know who I'm talking
AO Productions.
about.
That man gets on his knees and bobs and weaves whenever they need some type of positive media,
Yeah,
introduction. Like, oh,
yeah. Well, yeah.
listen,
Anytime you
TNA
critique a
didn't
nigga,
kill.
like just go watch the show.
It's like, dude, TNA didn't kill 16 people. They only killed 15. You're being really like pedantic by saying 16. Like, oh my god. It's like, all right, calm the fuck down. Like, obviously, you're having sex with someone who works for the company. Calm down. You sound ridiculous.
Yeah, they got. I'm all for TNA support, but they made too many bonehead decisions for people not to try to be as objective as possible. Because any other way, you know, have you come out looking foolish. Real quick, because I know you're stickler for stuff like this. How do you feel about the title of Static?
I like the title. I do. I think it looks good. It looks a little samey to what we've been having in terms of other titles, but cause I'm pretty sure this is like an accurate representation of the KOTV. I think is like an
Mm-hmm.
accurate part of the title, and I do like that. It gives it kind of like a juxtaposition for like the other titles being a bit more regal. This is a bit more like gritty, and I dig that. I think the actual one is going to be with a black KO and a little bit of a purple outline, and then the pink and purplish TV is part of it. This looks like the KO and the TV are. I know you can't see the screen, but it's the graphic for the tournament. The KO
Yeah.
and the TV on this belt look enhanced and added on, but is still a visual representation to what they're actually going to be using. And I like it. It's fine. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing gosh or gauche. It's nothing, out of the ordinary. It's good. It's not great. I'm not in love with it, but it should be fine. And I think if that's kind of what we're aiming for, I think we'll be set. Let's go and finish up with a pre-show though. We get Ricky Sosa take on Eric Young. Um, thank Christ, Ricky Sosa got the win. I was a little surprised this wasn't on the pay-per-view, but
Yeah.
the fact that Ricky Sosa got the win is still important
Yeah.
because you know who if it, there's every possibility that Dreamer would have had Young win, so that way Sosa would have something to do with Bound for Glory.
Freeman might have had him in the X Division match, man.
Yeah, and that's fine eventually, but it's his first pay per view match. Like you got to give him a
Yeah.
chance. I think Sosa's going to be a big deal for TNA. They just got to use him right.
Yeah, he should. I love that crowd reaction. No, he's good, man. Good. You just got to give him the looks. You got to give him the opportunity. Uh, give him more feuds. Like some of the young, don't drag this stuff out with young for the big God. Like just let young kind of move on. Supposed to got there's other people for him to get up to it with. So, but yeah, definitely the right decision here. So stuff. Definitely somebody that should be investing in going forward, and hopefully there won't be any more travel. For fingers crossed.
Hopefully. We then move on to the X Division Championship match and the Ultimate X match. We got Amazing Red, Leon Slater, Frank Kazarian, Cedric Alexander, Mr. Elegance, Casey Navarro, and Fabian Aichner. I would not say this was one of the better Ultimate X matches of all time. I would say it was actually kind of a little rudimentary. It was good. It was a good wrestling match, but we've seen better Ultimate X matches. But also, like, let's keep in mind, while Aichner was a quote unquote demon 6, 7 years ago, he's like 36 now. Mr. Elegance is not a high flyer. Amazing Red is 42. said 37, 38, and has never been a high flyer. You had Leon Slater and Casey Navarro, and then you had near 50-year-old Frankie Kazarian. This is not the best crop of X Division wrestlers. Now, you throw in an eighth guy, it'd be a great eight-man tag. But you really only had two dudes in Slater and Navarro who were built for this kind of match. And so, like, I wasn't going to be surprised that it went the way it did. I was pleasantly surprised it was as quality of a match as it was. But I also think that it does highlight some of the bigger issues with the roster, the depth, the talent. This is not, if this is your X Division roster, this is the shittiest X Division roster I've ever seen. Quite, quite honestly, because you're about to lose Leon Slater. While Cedric's a good wrestler, I don't see him as an X Division wrestler. And then everyone else has pretty sizable issues, either with age and knees with Red, age and losing mobility with Kazarian, or just not X Division guys in Elegance and Aikner. So it was as good as it was going to be, and I think that's good enough, quite honestly. Said wins when I think it was Leon Slater grabs the belt and he's dangling, and then Said snatches it from his hand. Afterwards, Frankie Kazarian takes a moment and welcomes Amazing Red back to the company, back into the ring, and announces that Amazing Red will be the second inductee into the TNA Wrestling Hall of Fame class of 2026, the first being ODB. Marcus, thoughts on the match and or Amazing Red's induction into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah, look, there's been standards for years that set for the for, that match. But rarely, and I'll say this before, that you're gonna find it hard pressed, even with much like similar to the knockout division, even with what we have with the X division. Rarely, if ever, have they disappointed, and they didn't here. But to your point, we have seen better. And got years prior, but those were different times, different rosters, a lot of different moments. I thought these guys again delivered. Like I said, you're gonna find it hard pressed for the X division to not deliver, particularly when they have to kick off the show. As far as Eichner, does he have like a real picture for like spamming crossbodies?
Maybe. Your
I
guess is
don't.
as good as mine. I've only ever seen him a little bit in WWE when he was with was that Inspirion, Imperium, whatever they're fucking called, Nvidia.
Yeah, Imperium. Yeah, yeah. I like him a part of the tag team, but here I don't. He kind of spread that move set out a little more for me because I'm watching the highlights. I'm like, how many crossbodies did he do? Um,
All of them.
yeah, yeah, but yeah, like I said, it dug the match, dug the moment, how they told it at the end, which you get a lot from Ultimate X, right? Like
Hmm.
just how things could be going one way, and then all of a sudden it drops, and it's a completely different thing. Leon having it literally in his grasp and still it, just going, thank you, you did my work for me, guy. And then to continue to tell that story, I do like that. So that is to me, I guess, a nod to somebody having some confidence and continue to tell that story. And Cedric, even to your point of not being your traditional exhibition, particularly at this stage of his career, he is a great antagonist in that regard. So um, I thought they delivered for what they did. As far as Amazing Red, again, just don't get talked about enough. TNA has one of the most legit Hall of Fames
Hmm.
going, period, bar none. They've yet to make an entrant in there that I disagree with. All of them are great picks. Amazing Red, having him come back for that match, and Steve following that match with the announcement, just a great moment. Well deserved. He is very much synonymous with the TNA brand and certainly in the exhibition in that regard. So I'm glad he's getting that acknowledgement because he's beloved across the industry. Well deserved.
It should also be noted that since he'll be at Bound for Glory, I have to assume he'll be wrestling at Bound for Glory unless he's hurt. So if he's not back
Yeah.
with TNA full time, which I don't think he is, I do think he'll have another match at least this year.
Also, real quick, had you paid attention to how long it? Was that really the first Ultimate X match we've had what in a decade or something?
No, no. I think we had one like last year.
I feel like I saw something on the notes, but it was like this has been the first Ultimate X in however long.
It
Maybe
may
the
have been the
graphic was
first.
wrong.
It may have been the first Ultimate X match that Amazing Red has been in.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yeah, because we had one this year at Rebellion.
Yeah, that makes far more sense. I'm glad you said that. That makes far more sense. Maybe I read it wrong or something, but I'm like, what? But yeah. So yeah,
Um,
just good stuff, and yeah, to your point, and I'm glad they had Cass do it. So that was another really cool moment. So again,
so
they haven't missed their Hall of
so
Fame.
it's been 15 years since the last Ultimate X match that Amazing Red has been in. It was in 2011 with Robbie E, Shannon Moore, and Alex Shelley at Destination X 2011. Funny enough, Miss Kazarian and Mr. Anderson were in a one-on-one Ultimate X match back in 2010. So, like, yeah, go figure. Go figure. That takes us to our second match. AJ Francis, accompanied by Expressions, took on Elijah. This was a fine match. I think wrestling needs more of these matches. Nothing about it is memorable. Nothing about it was overly impressive. But what I'll tell you is this: when you're trying to set a show, you can do the WWE of it all. Have 5 matches, 30 minutes in between, and 6 minutes of action. Or you could do the AEW of it all, where you have a 5 hour show and every single match is 1,000 miles an hour, nonstop, no breaks, pants, no dance, right? But what I like is the classic booking of big match, slow match, fast match, regular match. You build a nice rhythm where you're not expecting the same style, same match, same everything to come at you. That's one of the issues I have with AEW. I feel like I'm watching almost the same match every single time because Tony Khan has hired guys who across the board wrestle the same, look the same, move the same. There's very little difference between Kenny Omega, Swerve, and Will Ospreay in terms of the wrestling. And you have the same kind of matches with those guys whenever you put them in a situation. So it feels like you're kind of getting inundated with the same style, same kind of match, night in, night out. I like that we're going from a high end super ultimate X kind of match to a more 1980s, 1990s slow paced, methodical storybook match that showcased more of a physicality and less about athleticism, though still a pretty fun little match. These are the kind of matches you can put on for 10 minutes, reset the crowd, and get them ready for the next big match. And I think that's necessary. Both men look pretty good. Elijah hit a huge Highwayman's farewell that he kicked out of. Ultimately, though, Elijah gets the win after the Drifter Destroyer. And then after the match, he pops out a brand new guitar. So, like, that was cool. That was cool. Any thoughts on that one,
Yeah,
Marcus?
this was one of my favorite matches. I think
Yeah.
I've been watching Francis for a while. It's been really cool to see Elijah just really showcase the consistency out of him and what he was allowed to do in WWE. I think we've both been talking about that for a while now. Um, but I think Francis has kind of made himself an all-purpose player on the show. Um, and I think in particular matches like this, once he had with Casey Navarro, um, and just other matches, I think scenarios like this, I think where he thrives at. He's not no crazy technician by any means, any sorts of that nature, but scenarios like this, being a big guy, uh, in these more hardcore situations and these style matches, being that type of antagonist, I think he really carved out his place on the show, and I think he's done a great favor to guys like Casey Navarro and certainly Elijah, and making them look good and doing it in a way that's not offensive. Because it could be a tyrant scenario, and I don't feel like it's that. I think you know, You complimented him, and I think I did as well on that music video. He's very much finding his avenue, uh, even if he's not consistently being positioned for titles or whatnot, for main events. Really makes himself and his presence consistent on. And I appreciate that as a viewer. So he's another name that clearly has a lot of intention on sticking around, and somebody I think the company should value at this point in time in that regard. So, but definitely the right person won, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Elijah does going forward. As I think both of us has called for him to maybe be put in some more elevated position.
I think you could do again. I'm still pitching for the idea of Francis and Moose to be in something as a tag team.
Mm,
So maybe we'll get something there. Speaking of tag team matches, we had the Elegance brand versus Rosemary and Alley. I would say this is a fine match. Your best worker is M by Elegance. She's a potential stud. Everyone else did their job, though. It was far from a bad match.
yeah,
The right team won, and they set up,
mm,
a lot of stuff potentially in the future. So Demon X Bunny or Demon Cross Bunny gets the win
yeah.
and become the new Knockouts Tag Team titles. Right team won.
Yeah, again, right decision, and I gotta admit, man, right with you. I was thoroughly impressed by the elegance brand here, particularly in by elegance. I'm looking at, I'm like, these girls are putting in like these. This ain't no divas match.
Mm-mm.
These girls are putting in real work, and I think with the amount as much TV time as they've gotten, a lot of it obviously promo, but obviously getting the matches too. I think these who have come away, obviously like you said, in by elegance, somebody that you can be looking out for. Um, like I said, I was very impressed in this match, but ultimately, to me, you don't bring Allie back in the way that you did. Uh, really bringing a storyline full circle after how long she had been gone,
About 6 years,
and
6, 7 years.
yeah, to bring that back full circle in the way that they did, really closing out the decay storyline. Like they tied up a lot of loose ends with that. To bring her back the way she did, and then quote unquote back to life with her precious demon, and not put the title on him, I think would have been criminal. And yeah, right decision. I'm looking forward to seeing what these this duo gets hang it up to. And I think it's a great spot for Rosemary, who we talked about before. You could have put her in that potential spot to be knockout champion again, but she's not where she was, and you don't expect her to be after how long it's been. But I think in this scenario, she it's right up her alley right now.
Yeah,
No
Rosemary is
pun
like
intended.
41 or 42 at this point. And the fact that she
Yeah,
moves as well as she does, especially because she had a really bad knee injury, like a real bad knee injury.
yeah. She dropped some
Um,
weight. Yeah,
yeah, she had a bad knee injury. She wasn't in the shape that she used to be. It took her a while to get back into it. And she still isn't moving like she did before the injury. But I think she's in a place where I think as a cornerstone of the tag team division, where she only has
yeah.
to work 5 to 7 minutes a night, I think is
Mm-hmm.
exactly where she should be. And maybe if she gets stem cell or if she does some therapy or just, they advance something else in medicine, maybe she can get another crack at the Knockouts World title. But right now, I think she's exactly where she should be in terms of where her talent level is, but also where she needs to be because she gives stability to the World Tag Team division.
Yeah.
So we get some nonsense between Daria and Santino, basically surmounting and Mustafa Ali getting a triple threat match with two open challengers. And the first one is Rich Swan, who we had actually talked about being on the show, not being on the show, but we had talked about Rich Swan not being on Slammiversary on last week's show. And here he is. And then we also find out that the third challenger is Uha Nation, the former Apollo Crews, signed with TNA. And I did the math. I did the legitimate math. I broke it down piece by piece. I looked into it. I brought it up. And Marcus, I really want you to hear what I discovered because it's a little comical. We talk about how the WWE books people, right? Well, apparently, I broke it down. In the last 20 years, there are one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, 9 people who have won the Intercontinental Championship. Remember, That's who they were advertising for this match, a former Intercontinental Champion. 9 people who have won the Intercontinental Championship in the last 20 years who were not already signed to either WWE or AEW. And those 9 people, in descending order from least likely to have shown up to most likely, were John Cena, AJ Styles, JBL, Kofi Kingston, Curtis Axel, Ryback, Braun Strowman, Ezekiel Jackson, and then lastly Apollo Crews. So when you look at at these 9 guys who were available, who were the only 9 guys it could have been based off the criteria we were given, to think that it was anyone else but Apollo Crews or Uha Nation, as he is back to being known, is a bit hilarious. And they honestly should have just announced him as the guy because it was obvious it wasn't going to be Braun Strowman. He's already said he's not coming back unless he's getting paid buku bucks. Ryback hasn't wrestled in a decade. I think Curtis Axel is dealing with legal issues right now. Kofi's likely going to AEW. JBL was set to return to wrestling, a year ago, but TNA apparently, dropped the ball with that. Ezekiel is wrestling sporadically, and Styles and Cena are retired. And Cena's already said that if you want me to wrestle again, it's going to cost you more money than it's worth. So, like, yeah, it was always going to be Wuhan Nation. Not a surprise. Not even a little bit. That being
So
said, great match.
first off, uh, just hats off to you because I don't know if anybody else, uh, willfully had the wherewithal to either, dive into that uh, way that you did based off the criteria we were given. Uh, and the way that the wrestling Twitter works, they probably would have came up with alternative names out of sheer desire or connection with whatever name was on that list. Obviously, like you said, Cena the need to come back. Styles has made a decision. Obviously, his narratives is elsewhere when it comes to wrestling right now, which is interesting to see. Um, to me, some of Strowman's best matches that I've seen, and it's just scrolling through TV, have been him versus Food. Uh, so yeah, I mean, like I said, Ezekiel just couldn't see that, but yeah, Apollo was the right name, and like I said, kudos to you for that stat because I don't think nobody would have dove deep to even look into something like that. But like you said, with as ridiculous as the choices that they have for that, probably should have just went on ahead and announced it. But I would imagine with them kind of bungling some other stuff that we've all called out on this show, I can guess I see why they want to make it a surprise. But regardless of all that, like you said, great match. Ali, Swan, Uha, absolute studs. Another match that went to the right decision. Uh, this is a match I would tell people to go watch. These guys absolutely delivered. And Ali has definitely been an MVP and killing it with that title right now. So I think the international championship is lucky to have him. I don't know who beats him for it, but he's on the roll right now.
He is a phenomenal wrestler and has done great stuff for TNA. We'll see what his future is with the company here in a little bit. We had Eddie versus Moose in a no surrender match, which I thought was hilariously stupidly named because they have a no surrender event. I mean, let's be honest. Now, it was basically a corners match where the corner throws in the towel for you. JDC was in Moose's, Eddie was in, or Alicia was in Eddie's. There was a little moment beforehand where Moose and Uha hook up and link up. As the match goes on, it's a real hard hitting affair. Eddie looks fantastic. You can tell he's getting himself back into shape. He's taking it seriously again. He's still wearing the shirt, but you can tell by his arms he's like really putting in the effort. Uh, all in all, I thought this was a really good match. But Eddie and Moose have great chemistry with one another. They really have a real steadfast understanding of how to move with one another. So like that's a great thing. Ultimately, though, Moose gets the win. I think after there's some shenanigans. Moose's family got involved. His wife got involved and threw the worst slap I've ever seen at Alicia. And then Moose's son hit a low blow on Eddie, I think it was. And then Moose eventually hits him with the spear or whatever the fuck Moose calls this move. And then Alicia throws in the towel. And then afterwards, I think it was afterwards, Moose puts Eddie and Alicia through a table. So,
Yeah, yeah. Not exactly how I think we kind of designed certain moments in the match, but then they continued their tradition and um, maybe you know the way you set up certain lists and certain articles that you do, you can kind of list off like some of TNA's best and worst family intervention moments. Because in this match, it made me immediately think back to when Devon's son got involved in his feud with the Pope.
oh god,
Uh,
yeah.
and stuff of that nature. And obviously, the Alexander's and all that, and it's been a consistent thing over the years of family getting involved in high pressure matches like this. But yeah, that was one of the worst slaps I've seen. But that was that Moose's wife?
Yeah. Yeah, they've been
Who
together
was
for
that?
a
Yeah,
while.
gotcha. I'm just not used to seeing her. When she's talking, like, who the freak is that? And then because saw the son and saw him and saw the wife, it threw me off. But yeah, that was horrendous. But yeah, this was an interesting moment. They did the whole thing. We hawked up and then broke the ties and all that good stuff. Company
Yeah,
to me is still, very much lucky to still have Edwards and Moose. I don't know how much, longer these guys intend to go, but like I said, they're lucky to have them. And that Edwards and Moose have great chemistry, and the list is right along with it. So,
to be clear, that was his son and his son's stepmother.
yeah, as I figured, I wasn't looking for it. Like it wasn't flashing me back to the movie Life or nothing. But yeah,
Well, it was that the one with Cat Williams.
Eddie, no, Eddie Murphy and Martin.
Okay, did you? There's a movie with Cat Williams where his ex-wife shows up and shows him like
Yeah,
two kids.
I forget the name of that movie. That's one of the most hilarious scenes.
Like just because you name him Darren, don't mean he belonged to Darren. But that one, that's a white baby. That's a
You're like
Caucasian baby
that
from
one. You're like that one looks like me, but not that.
that's a baby from the mountains of Caucasus. That baby has a 720 credit score already.
Oh man.
Let's get to the one negative note on tonight's show, or on Slammiversary, I should say. Lee Yingli and Zaya Brookside have just an absolute dog pile of a match. I don't know what photographs Zaya Brookside has of the TNA management, but exploitation is and blackmail is the only thing I can comprehend as to why they're still running with her. Now, listen, I think I was no, I missed one. I picked the Great Hands, not the Hardys, but I was right on every other match on this card. So I knew Zaya Brookside was winning. I didn't want her to win. She's not
Yeah.
talented. She does not know how to raise the game up to the standard needed to be the Knockouts World Champion, especially coming off of probably the worst dog shit era in Knockouts history. Since the NXT partnership has happened, no division has been gutted more than the Knockouts division. And now, for various reasons, you lose Jordan Grace and Deanna Prazzo due to financial limitations. They want to get paid more. Although Jordan didn't actually take a pay raise, apparently she took a pay decrease to go to NXT. But I'm sure she's getting paid more on WWE when she's actually on TV. Then Deanna Prazzo went to AEW and got paid a lot. But you thought, hey, things were cooking. We still had Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich at least. They had a great dog collar match the night Alex Shelley won the world title back in what was that, June of 2024. So like, or maybe that was 2023. I think it was 2023 actually. Jesus. So like, there's potential there. There's a lot of potential. And then Kelly ends up getting pregnant and leaves the company shortly thereafter. Then Masha Slamovich ends up being outed for being just a terrible human being. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh shit. And then you over rely on the knockouts, not the knockouts, the NXT women. and we only get the terrible ones who can't wrestle, and they don't look good. They don't have good matches. They all looked terrible as champion, and they devalued the title so significantly. I don't even remember who the women were. I know there's like two of them. There might have been a third. That's how forgettable they are as talents. And then in between, we had Li Ying Li, who I feel like is, again, I make sports references a lot. I think this will kind of land. If you're a Cavs fan, this feels like when Ricky Davis was the best player on the Cavs in between having Andre Miller and LeBron. No one is excited about Li Ying Li being your ace. And why they ever put the belt on her in the first place still boggles the fucking mind. Because she's not that good. Now, she's a great martial artist, and there are moments where she looks really good. But looking good in a match and having a good match are not the same thing. It's the difference between being Glacier and Rob Van Dam. So to put these two in the women's title match, a knockout title match at Slammiversary, it was real hard to get through. They gave it like 12 minutes. That's not great. And then Zaya Brookside won, and now I have to sit through that for the next fucking however many months. This is not a good roster, guys. Not a good roster.
You're sitting in that. I feel like we're both sitting in that scene when it comes to tough situation. Sitting in that scene in Star Wars where then the trash compactor and it's closing in on them, and I'm just sitting there like it could have been worse, and you're like, how could it have been worse? I'm like, it could have been Ariana Grace defending the title.
That's number
Um,
3. That's who I was forgetting. Ariana Grace.
Still, Ariana Grace, J.C. Jane, Kalani Jordan, those are the names. And thank God they didn't hold out to anybody else. But yeah, I've been impressed at certain moments with Yingling Lee. But to your point, like you said, it's been in moments. It hasn't been consistently overall. But God bless her, she's tried to get better at her English. But essentially, that's really what Bruce was almost there for as a translator. And then obviously she evolved into this heel role, which we talked about before it even happened. That she was like, I'm not interested in that whatsoever. She's like, if she sucks on this side of the street, she's gonna suck on that side of the street. And yeah, I don't know. I was gonna ask you who you were going with. Obviously, no knockout. I mean, no TNA talent. Who you would have gone with um, besides these two to have a champion? And I'm immediately thinking names like Lish, which we talked about before, and where that could lead. Uh, but yeah, I think Ling doesn't need the title again. I don't know if Brookside needed to ever have the title. And I don't know where we go from here with it.
I think I so here's the thing. I wouldn't be like, well, who do I put into this match the night of? I'm thinking, where would I have been 6 months ago? I would have had Jody
Yeah,
Threat and Danny Luna heading to this title. I don't know if Danny Luna left because of money or if she left because
yeah,
of poor booking or both or neither. But if I could have convinced Danny Luna to stay, I would have had her and Jody Threat have basically a 17-minute match where I'm like, I don't care what you do. Don't stab each other in the jugular. Don't remove limbs. Otherwise, go fucking crazy on each other. We'll cover the liability. And just see what they could cook. Like that's what I would have done. But Tommy was really hard on to get Lee Ying Lee and Zaya Brookside over. Even though he's like, if I had it my way, M by Elegance would have been, brother, you were the head booker. You were the head booker. If M by Elegance is the person you want to be the champion, then fucking put her over and make her the goddamn champion. My goodness. I feel like I'm talking to a wall sometimes when it comes to some of these people in the industry. Now, again, maybe he got the edict like, hey, yada, yada, yada. You can't use so and so. So and so can't win the belt. You have to put over so and so. And I do believe there's some of that. I really do. But I refuse to sit here and believe that he was forced to book Zaya Brookside over M by Elegance. And I guarantee you he probably could have done it if he had wanted to. So let's see how
yeah.
that goes.
real quick, and I know this is inconsequential, but I just wanted to hear about your take on it. She's still around. How much of a shoo-in do you think that Blanchard would have been to win that TV title?
I don't think she would have won the TV title at all. I think you then pivot to Zaya Brooks had and Tessa for Bound for Glory.
Mm,
Personally, that's what
mm,
I would have done. But you know,
gotcha.
I'm only a I'm only a podcaster, not a wrestling booker. We then get the ladder match. I think they did all they could. Someone
Yeah.
said that the systems, Bear Bronson and Brian Myers, only had one defense before this match, and that's fucking atrocious. Um, the Hardys, the Righteous, the Great Hands, and the System all went to war. Hardys end up winning, which I genuinely did not see coming. Uh,
Yeah.
what did you think of this match? Were you a fan of it?
I thought it was cool. Like you said, they did about about the best they could. Did you feel like there was a earnest effort? Um, I would imagine, obviously, not only just for the result, but just for the respect to where they are physically, that there was more of an earnest for the other teams to take the big bumps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially the
Yeah,
Great Hands. I think that's why they were added to this match seconds or not seconds, but days before. They
yeah,
were
great
definitely added.
hands.
Yeah, they were definitely
Yeah,
added to get the big moments out of the way. The
yeah,
Righteous and Bear Bronson also took some pretty impressive stuff. I don't think
absolutely.
the Hardys need to be wrestling in ladder matches anymore. But
Mm.
I'll tell you why they won. You want to know why they won?
Keep them around.
No, no, they're getting paid more than anyone. They're getting paid more than any six dudes combined. That's why they're getting paid WWE money in TNA. They won because they're 8 days away from breaking LAX's, which is Ortiz and Santana, combined days as champion. I For some reason Tommy Dreamer sure had a hard on for taking away guys like Leon Slater and the Hardys record breaking runs. I don't know why he decided to do that because he took the belts off the Hardys and he took the belts off of Slater, both on moments right or both before they were set to break major records. And so I think they got the belts for a fifth and possibly final time so they could break the combined days of champion for a tag team, which belongs to Ortiz and Santana at 662 days. They are still a ways off, though, from the number of combined days as champion, which James Storm owns at 787 days. So, already still have some way to go. Good match, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny too, and maybe we differ on this opinion. I just feel like that's trying to do that for the name value only. I think it was more important for that record to stand as it is for LAX because that was what the second iteration of that stable,
Mm-hmm.
and the fact that they got over the way that they did, had the success in what they did, and oftentimes was probably really the show stealers at that time consistently uh, for what they were doing. That's really where they peaked at as a team because it wasn't in AEW. I'll tell you that.
No.
Um, but they were killing it. They were running it. The fact that that's such a weird thing, particularly to your point about what he did with Slater.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I mean, it lends to say being able to hold some over his head and add to that heel roll, and they'll continue back and forth, and even played into the element of the Ultimate X. But it is a weird thing when people have because we know WWE has a record fetish too, and if they don't like you or they want to excommunicado, immediately put somebody in that slot. But yeah, those were definitely two weird decisions. I think it would have probably been better served, like you said. They got to be the highest paid in the company. Would imagine, as you stated, but for what the titles could do for the talent, the good hands was the better choice.
I think so. I think so, ultimately. But we'll see how the Hardys' next reign goes and how long it lasts. That takes us to the main event, though. We get Nick Nemeth versus. As soon as I find it. Nick Nemeth versus Mike Santana. But before Mike Santana can take the ring. Promo videos shown with Santana writing a letter to somebody thanking them for all the work they've done with them, and it ends up being to Conan. And one of the last things Mike Santana does as a member of the TNA roster is announce that Conan will be the third member of the TNA class of 2026 Hall of Fame. So Conan's going to be joining ODB and Amazing Red. So, and he's lost both of his legs, but apparently Conan is in good health right now, and that the operations were a success in alleviating some of the more massive issues he was dealing with.
Oh wow.
Though
Okay.
it was also kind of a somber note because we haven't really mentioned, but they dedicated the Tonight Show to Joe Doring, former TNA Tag Team Champion, former AW All Japan Pro Wrestling Triple Crown Champion, who had passed away on Wednesday morning, right after we recorded the show, or Thursday morning, right after we recorded the show. Um, so there was a lot of nostalgia and some somberness to this event in a very
Yeah.
real way. And I think even though TNA's fumbled the ball sometimes, I do got to admit that the way they did the Joe Doring announcement, the announcements for Amazing Red and Conan, I thought were top tier. I think they got the moments down pat for tonight's show, or for Slammiversary, I should say. As far as the main event
Right.
goes, we shouldn't be surprising anyone when this is announced. Mike Santana's gone. He's done with the company. Um, One of the things that we noticed on the show was that almost everyone won via clean finishes, and none more were surprising than the main event. I knew Santana was going to lose. I did not realize that he was going to lose clean, and I did not realize he was going to lose in a very kind of ho hum way. I was a little surprised with how this match all ended because it kind of felt like it came out of nowhere. And to now know that he's not even going to be at the next set of tapings, I'm surprised. I'm a little surprised. The match itself was pretty damn solid, and
Yeah.
despite Santana claiming for weeks like, "Don't listen to the dirt sheets," like I know there's been speculation, like we were proved right. We normally are. Like we as internet personalities are generally confirmed right when these rumors come out. So like he's off to NXT. We'll see what he ends up doing over there. As far as the match goes, Nemeth wins with the Danger Zone, gets the quick and easy pinfall, and now he's a two-time TNA World Champion, and ended up celebrating the close of the show with his brother. I don't know where we go from here with the main event scene. I really don't. Ricky Sosa is so new. Elijah, Moose, and Eddie are there. You also have Nemeth now, but that's about it. So like I don't know what we do next. EC3 is going to be returning, I think, at the next tapings. I think when those tomorrow, Thursday. I don't know when they actually are, but they're this week sometime. EC3 is expected to return, and I would imagine that he and Nemeth are going to link up heading into lockdown. So like we'll see, we'll see. Marcus, any final thoughts on the main event or the show as a whole, or Santana's departure?
Yeah, you've been calling for months, man. I think I got one. I wanted to intentionally being a little bit of denial about it, but just a lot of been an exodus, and yeah, I mean it is cool to see that. The call your shot gauntlet thing, and I don't know, and also I think it's probably a stat you could pull up about just how many call your shot gauntlets have gone on to breed a new champion. But I do think it keeps that concept alive because what they just did with the Kings of the Ring was just horrendous. But yeah, I expected a good solid banger, and they put on a banger. Probably one of my really great match, one of the great matches of the weekend to me. That's just off the two talents alone. Um, Nemeth, I think, is fine for what they need going forward. I think you can go with anybody, even at this age and stage. Um, Santana has been great to watch. I think my favorite time of watching him was in the way that they built him. before he finally got that first championship. Uh, I just think the investment was there. They literally built it from the ground up, and yeah, it's just been really cool to see. He came to TNA for world champion, be taken serious as a single star. That's what happened. So you know, I think it was a great flag bearer for the brand. On the way it goes from here, like you said, potentially NXT. But it was really cool to witness. Happy he got to have those moments, particularly that moment with his daughter. I think it's probably the highlight of his run. And also cool that he got to do that for Conan. I had no idea that was going on with Conan health wise. You know, God bless him and everything that he's going through. And to your point, man, I think even with all the faults and flaws that the TNA have displayed and probably will continue to display in some aspects, I think they really put their best foot forward with this show, particularly like you said, with the overall heartfelt sentiment towards the late great Joe Doring and obviously these Hall of Fame announcements and just the care that I feel like at least went into the decisions of the booking. They came to these matches and keeping, like you said, some of these results playing because they have in the past set a bar for the level of overbooking they've had for some of their world title matches, and they didn't do that here. So I think overall, Slammiversary delivered.
I think they did too. I think all in all, it was a strong show. And coming off of the last couple of weeks that they've had, they needed it. They really did. And I think
Yeah,
they did just enough to make the show genuinely good. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's once in a lifetime. I'm not going to be sitting here saying, "Oh my God, you remember Simon versus 2026?" In 3 years, it'll be
yeah,
forgotten about. You know, whether
mm-hmm.
TNA is still around or not. We're not going to be talking about the 2026 edition of Slammiversary. But for the moment that
Yeah,
we are in and what we needed it to be, it delivered.
yeah.
Hopefully, they'll Bound for Glory significantly better. That's about it for us this week, though. Marcus, any final thoughts on the show?
Oh man, but I'm glad it exceeded my expectations and like I said, I thought they did a great job with the overall sentiment across from top to bottom. And just RP Joe Doran.
He's going to be missed. With that being said, let's close out the show. Be sure to follow us on the website. It's realnerdcorp.com, RealNerdCrp.com. We are on Twitter at NERDCRP. We're on twitch.tv /Wrestling Underground. We're on youtube.com /Wrestling Underground. Marcus, you can be found on your Twitter account at Paradox Kid, PARADOXKID.
That is me.
You can also find him on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. Be sure to check him out there as well. What are you guys talking about this week on the pod? Anything?
This week it will be the second part of, of our Legend series talking about the life and times of Megumi Kudo. So both part one and part two is up. Go check that out. And we may have some stuff coming up from Stardom shows. And I think did Ring of Honor also have a flash show this weekend?
I don't think Ring of Honor did. AEW and NXT and WWE all had shows this past weekend.
Gotcha. But yeah, we'll probably be talking about some Stardom stuff coming up. But go check out those that two part about the life and times of another legend and Megumi Kudo.
You can find me on my personal accounts at Chad Nerdcorp, on the Twitter at CHEDNERDCRP, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo Hut, CHEDSPHOTOHUT. We'll be back next week for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. We don't know what we'll be talking about, but we'll be talking about something that you probably want to know about. So be sure to tune in, check in, and see what's going on. For Marcus, I'm Chad. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. And Marcus, with that being said, take us home.
Like